I'm all about, the adage that you're only as good as the people around you. And the people around me were so, so important to me. I always preach that we spend more time with each other than we do our families in a work day, and especially in our situation because we worked way more than 8-hour days. And so it was just really, really important to me for everybody to get along, to treat each other well, to take care of each other, have each other's back, and just, look out for each other.
Welcome to Wealth and Life, where you'll learn with financial planner, consultant, speaker, and business owner, Tony D'Amico. You'll hear stories from successful business owners and individuals about how they navigated the inevitable challenges that arose as they achieved each new level of success. And you'll get insights and strategies from leading wealth planning professionals on how to achieve your next level of success. Now here's your host, Tony D'Amico.
Well, Kevin, welcome to the Wealth and Life podcast. I'm really happy to have you as a guest today.
Well, my pleasure. I'm really honored that you asked me, and this will be fun. I will tell you this, it's my first one. I've never listened to one, but I'm going to be on one. So it's like when I was in high school. My first play was the first one I ever saw was the first one I was ever in. So here we go.
That's
so
awesome.
Same thing on the podcast. So.
Well, cool. Well, I'm going to introduce Kevin Salyer, who was the Vice President of Marketing and Programming and the executive producer of local programming at Fox 8 just up until the end of the year.
Yep.
So
12:31 out the door.
Out the door. So, well, Kevin, so tell us a little bit about yourself and, how you maybe got your start at Channel 8 many years ago, right? Almost 40 years ago.
Well, you know what? It really goes back, and this is a true story. When I was 15 years old, I remember sitting at home watching TV with my folks, and I just looked up and I said, someday I want to work at Channel 8. Not just in television, not just anywhere, specifically at Channel 8. And that was 15. At 18, I was fortunate enough to get a job at the Lorraine Journal, which was at the time a thriving newspaper in like Ohio's 10th largest city. And so I was a sports writer there at 15. Everything leads to everything else. You know what I mean? It's a stepping stone. So the sports writing at 15 got me my first radio job at 18. And my first radio job helped me get in at Channel 8 at the age of 20 while I was a junior in college. Now, of course, I had to flip all my classes to night side after I got that job, and I actually had to go one extra semester. But I started working at Channel 8, at the age of like 20. But get this, you talk about foot in the door, beginning job and all that. I was hired as a full-time tour guide.
Awesome. Yeah.
The station was relatively new at the time, and the general manager was all about having the public come in and see, and so I did 4 tours a day, Monday through Friday. And I think because of that, I've spoken to like every, Elks Club, elementary school. When I see a school bus, I like break out now. And but in doing so, you obviously learn every job. And so I knew every, people in television, you have the people who are in front of the camera or people who run the camera. Well, there's, hundreds of other jobs. And because of this job of, tour guiding around, I had to learn what everybody did. And of course, all the egos there, everybody wants to tell you how important their job is. So I learned everything and just got a real sense for that. And like a lot of guys, I wanted to get into sports. That was my whole thing. I was doing play-by-play sports and stuff. I went to the University of Akron.
Okay.
And I was on the radio there and another station in Akron, and I did all the play-by-play with the Akron Zips and the basketball team, football team, and all that stuff. But it just, again, it's that stepping stone thing. So I got that foot in the door job, and then basically did every job. Every person I hired after that, I could actually and honestly tell them, I've done everything I'm going to ask you to do.
Wow.
It's like, they say that when you buy a McDonald's, you have to learn, you have to do every job. You got to work the drive-through, do the fry. Well, I did that going up, and in turn, along those ways, I had every job going, from PR director to producer to this, and I ended up, years later, hanging around and becoming a vice president in charge of all the marketing and programming.
That's awesome.
Very,
That's
very, very blessed, very fortunate.
that's great. So, looking back at your career there, what would you say are some of your top accomplishments?
I'd have to answer that twofold in the sense that the things that I'm proud of and the things that maybe on somebody on the outside looking in. The things I'm proud of is that I hit 821 on the station softball team and only made 6 outs in an entire season, guys. And
That's
and that I
awesome.
was a Big Chuck and Little John All-Star for 20 years. Those are
For
the things
sure.
that I was on that. But other people would look at. I mean, I won 7 Emmy awards, and I was the youngest department head in the history of the station.
That's awesome.
I was Employee of the Year somewhere in there growing up, and so things like that. A lot of awards, a lot of opportunities. So again, very fortunate.
That what a great career that you had, and again, congrats on
Thanks.
all those accomplishments. So, so what did you like most about your career?
Well, again, I'm not going to lie. There's some great perks being in television,
Sure.
and so there's not a concert, play or sporting event or anything you could think of that I didn't get to see. I love, as I said, sports, theater, politics. For example, I remember I was covering the most recent Republican National Convention, and so I had all these credentials and this and that. So on the night of President Trump's big speech, I decided that I was going to sneak into the Ohio delegation. So I think I took Governor DeWine's seat, actually. So I sat down and watched that from there. But no, you know what? Just I mean, people think it's cool, and as did I, to meet celebrities and the biggest names in entertainment, sports, politics. So that was very cool. But to be honest with you, my real thing was, and I mean this very sincerely, the fact that I could share the perks of the opportunity that I was blessed with, and I could hook up people with tickets, or give them that first shot or that foot in the door job like somebody did for me.
Sure.
That was, in all candor, the biggest thrill for me was just to be able to share. I think today they call it like play it forward and all that, but just to share those opportunities, which I did, and that brought me great personal gratification because it was just cool to be able to help others like somebody did for me.
That's awesome. That's great. So I know, just kind of learning about you and talking to you off camera, I know that you're very big on kind of sharing your success with others, and especially with your team at Fox 8. So and also too, just an advocate for Northeast Ohio, whether it's businesses or schools or other events that are happening, just that advocacy that's innate within you of
Yeah. Well, it's important. So towards the latter part of my career, back in 2007, I created the show called New Day Cleveland. And it was just super important to me to make sure that we took care of local. I just wanted to forward, local entrepreneurs, businesses, and people who were just taking that shot that's, often 1 in a million, but, just help them and get their word out. And that was really important to me. And it worked, and it was very popular. And it was a win-win because people like to watch those types of things. And so I would feature a lot of restaurants and businesses. One of the keys to the show I decided early was everybody eats. So we're going to have a lot of food and a lot of cooking and this and that. So consequently, we profiled a lot of restaurants.
That's
but
great.
again, I wanted them to be, local yokel type places. And so, I'd like to think that we helped a lot of people sustain their business and grow their local, roots with these different restaurants and, miscellaneous businesses too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So, maybe when you look back on your career, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Well, you know what? The television industry, the one constant is change. And so you just have to be able to roll with things. And in my career, I mean, quite frankly, I was quite the anomaly because I worked at one place at Channel 8, those 39 years. But during that time, a lot of people say, well, you've been at the same place the whole time. I go, yeah, but I've had 10 different ownerships over those 39 years and 9 different general managers. Now, think of
Wow.
that in sports terms. In
Sure.
sports terms,
Oh, it's like the
what
Cleveland
happens?
Browns.
Well, sure. So, new GM comes in, they blow out everybody.
Sure.
And, in the Browns, they do it every 15 minutes. But, other people, that's just, and in the television industry, to sustain through 9 general managers, 10 ownerships is, it says a lot. But what it really says is that I knew how to adapt and change because, every GM's different, every company, every corporation. And you know what? I went from the beginning when we were owned by like a family outside of Toledo. And then at one point we were, I'll call it victims of like a corporate raidership type thing. And so then suddenly you were just being flipped and, and all that. And they didn't really care about the station or the people. And it was just, you were just an investment that they were going to flip to make money. And we were bought a few times like that. But except one of the times we were bought was then the economy just went, and so they ended up holding on to us because they couldn't sell us. So
wow.
so they weren't interested in putting money into it. So you had to do, and so this is to answer your question, you had to do, a lot with a little. I mean, I went from having a substantially, big budget and department, and then it was knocked down to, me and 2 other people doing the same amount of work and putting out the same amount of content and product. So just that ability to change and to roll with it and to do more with little was probably the biggest things that got me through those years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, in handling all those ownership changes and GM changes, were there other skills that you feel like had to rely upon to get you through those times?
I'm all about, the adage that you're only as good as the people around you. And the people around me were so, so important to me. I always preach that we spend more time with each other than we do our families in a work day, and especially in our situation because we worked way more than 8-hour days. And so it was just really, really important to me for everybody to get along, to treat each other well, to take care of each other, have each other's back, and just, look out for each other. And, and you're only as good as the people around you. So if you hire good people, like I didn't want people that were like yes men, just tell me what I want to hear.
Sure.
That doesn't help me. Tell me where I'm wrong, or tell me where you think we're not doing enough, or what other ideas you have. I love to tap in to other people's strengths. I know mine. I know my strengths, and more importantly, I know my weaknesses. So I would bring in people who could, help and prop up my weaknesses with their thoughts and ideas. You couple that with the idea that I do like to forward people. I love, and again, it goes back to that somebody gave me a shot, so I'm always forwarding them. I said that I won 7 Emmys. Well, I haven't entered an Emmy since the late 90s because I just stopped. That was fine. You only need so many bookends. And I was just, trying to get other people to enter and forward their careers and such. So the people around you is, to me, what it's all about, and what I cherished and quite frankly, what I miss right now, having been retired, the most.
Yeah. I mean, we've obviously talked off camera quite a bit, and I know how special your team is, and how important the people are there to you.
Well, it's important to not only to value them, but to respect them and listen to them and be like, not just open to their ideas, but just excited to hear what, how do you see this, I mean, I never pretended to have all the answers.
Sure.
And I love when somebody else would, I always would say, please give me your idea. Let's not always just use mine. And so when you get that, to me, that was always exciting and gratifying.
That's awesome. And Kevin, I really believe successful people like yourself, they're maybe unconsciously, they do certain things that are successful. And I think success leaves clues. And I think you're talking about a couple of things that I think are really important. And it's, you're as good as the people that you're around, right? Like you said, the viewers are kind of your ultimate customer or client. But
report card.
And report card, right? They'll let you know, I'm
Yep.
sure, one way or another. But you almost have to put your team kind of a little bit of ahead of them, because without the team, you can't deliver, to them. So that just that importance of, just another thing I kind of know about you is just kind of putting others before yourself, and how can you make them successful? How can you maybe help them get an award rather than you try to get another one? Or that important too of that camaraderie, and that
It's huge.
And that family feel is awesome. So
You know what's interesting? Some of my general managers along the way criticized that leadership technique, if you will.
but they probably weren't a good cultural fit. Not to interrupt you, but
No, and they weren't. And I'd like to think in the end I had the last laugh. But there were some that I would actually have in like my reviews things like, you're too nice, you're too easygoing. One actually said, if your people are that happy and that content and that excited to come to work, maybe they're not working hard enough. I vehemently disagree with that point.
Yeah.
But people look at things differently. But I if you're going to fault me for being nice to people and forwarding your people and taking care of your people, because as loyal as I was to them, they were loyal to me in return. And I always said, when you're going to war and you want that person that'll run through a wall for you, and when times would get tough in our industry, that's who you want to go to battle with. And they were with me as much as I was with them. And that's that's that family thing,
Yeah.
When times get tough, families unite.
families stick together, right?
And that's what we did, and that's how we were able to, continue to win. Because I'm pretty proud of the fact that the station, going back to the days when we were CBS, and then in '94 when we flipped to Fox and all that, and we went from one of the top 5 CBS stations in the country, lost 70% of our audience basically overnight at the time of the Fox flip. And but our news continued to be number one. Now a lot of that's thanks to Dick Goddard and things like that. But I guess it even goes beyond that. I took that same thing about forwarding and trying to nurture loyalty even to the viewers. And that's where the whole Cleveland Zone campaign that I'm kind of known for. But that's just about, again, the local and being proud of the market and being proud of our city and where you come from. And I know Clevelanders, anybody knows that, we've taken our lumps, nationally and all that. But I just wanted people to be proud of their city and proud to say, yeah, I'm from Cleveland. And I always said it's fine, for us to pick on the city because we live here, but nobody from the outside
else,
the family.
Right?
Don't you mess
there's
with us,
nothing that irks me. I'll go to different cities for different conferences, and I remember I was in San Francisco for a really great conference, but the people there at dinner were like, "Oh, you're from Cleveland. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys won the the NBA championship finally." I'm like, it's like, and it's fine. It's like, people like that, it's like I don't want to even share with them how special Cleveland is. Like they could just stay there.
The people that are so critical, I always ask them one question. I go, "Ever been there?"
Yeah.
Well, no.
Yeah.
It's like, ask anybody who has and that they've found out, what we know.
It's it's no
and
doubt
yet,
an awesome
And yet
place.
there's something about us, because we've been beaten up over the decades, that we have such a need to be liked. I work in the comedy world a lot, and my comedian friend, national comedians, will come in and they'll say, "One thing about you guys, you're really needy." They come up after the show and say, "Were we your best audience? Were we your best audience?" We just have that need to, to be liked and well thought of. But the city's had some great moments, so I think we've earned some of those.
It sure has, and I'm obviously biased towards Cleveland.
Me too.
But the downtown area is doing extremely well. Several great sports franchises. A lot going on here with medicine and
incredible. The cultural arts. I'm doing some freelance work right now with Playhouse Square. People just have no clue what's going on. They have 48,000 season subscription holders.
Wow.
48,000.
That's awesome.
That's more than any other theater, conglomerate in North America.
Yeah.
Who knew?
We're spoiled. We really are with some of the things that we have, the Cleveland Orchestra, the arts.
It's amazing. We have more professional theater seats in the country, second only to New York City and Broadway.
Yeah, we're spoiled. And you know what? We can just continue to keep it a secret.
Yeah. But you know what? Even in Cleveland's darkest days, I think the suburbs and the schools and the cost of living and stuff were still there for us, but it's just, the city was taking the black eye with all the cliches and stuff. But hopefully, we're rising above that.
Yeah, and, you just talked about that importance of just about the local, Northeast Ohio. And it's funny, my earliest memory of Channel 8 was I was a little kid, and Channel 8 came to our house because my father was born in Italy, and I believe it was Virgil Dominic that was at our house just kind of highlighting some of the unique Italian American traditions that my parents had. And that just really stuck with me as a little kid. And even for me, I'm in my mid 40s, but growing up, my dad and I, we watched Big Chuck and Little John.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, Channel 8 is just kind of, I think, in the fabric of Northeast Ohio life, and it's kind of fun. We my son and I today, we watch the reruns of Big Chuck and Little John, and he loves it, and it's perfect for our family because both my parents were born in Italy, and my wife is 100% Polish, so it's perfect to watch.
As Big Chuck calls it, it's that certain ethnic humor.
Yeah. Sometimes when we're watching the show, sometimes my wife doesn't think it's funny. I'm like, honey, it's just a joke, but she enjoys it as well. But yeah, there's been that long tradition, and there's no doubt that obviously that focus that you brought over the past almost 40 years has been entrenched in the community and the station. And
well, I wanted to keep it consistent because it was a really good message, and I know it worked. And sometimes some consultants would come in and say, you got to switch it, or the new general manager, we got to change our message. And I fought really hard not to, because I think it works, it sustains, it defines, it's everything branding is about. So you just can't mess with success. So.
Yes, yeah, knowing what you want to accomplish, knowing what you stand for, and then being consistent with that. So what do you hope that you do leave behind at Fox 8 now that you're retired?
Well, part of it is that I hope that they continue with that branding, because it's, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think it continues to do well. The station is, I think strategically, in position to continue. We very astutely locked up all of our major personality. Cleveland's a very personality market. You go to other markets, they don't know who does the weather or sports or, the news. It's a very personality market, so I always promoted heavily to the people, and told their story and let them share things, and so that's important because the market just eats that up. I've had people come in that that's one of the things I'm actually proud of. I've brought a lot of the talent to the station that I found in small towns, other places.
Who are some of the people that you brought to?
Oh, I found Kenny
station?
Crumpton in Fresno, California. I found Christy Capel in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I found Natalie Herbeck, who I think is incredible, and I brought her in to do New Day Cleveland. I found her in Steubenville, Ohio.
Okay.
So that's just sort of knowing what Cleveland likes, and just watching tape and looking at them and just saying, you know what, Cleveland's going to love this person.
That's
They're going to
awesome.
eat them up, and just and there's others that are wonderful people and this, but they just don't have that Cleveland element, So that's why I had to change the whole Cleveland Zone thing. Was born here, raised here, plan to grow old here. Well, not all of them obviously were born or raised here, so that's where I came up with or plan to stay or plan to grow old here.
Sure.
Because I think you've seen we don't have like a revolving door there. It's like you watch some of the other stations, which I'm not here to knock, but it's sort of like who's on there today.
Right.
Our place is very consistent, and there's strategy behind that, and the fact that once they get here, there's been a lot of people we've brought in that were like stepping stone to this market and that market, but then they get here, and this goes back to discovering Cleveland, and then they're finding their mate, they're putting down roots, they're raising a family, they're living in one of those great suburbs or something, and they're not going anywhere. And that's happened countless times.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're taken by surprise.
Yeah, they just get here and it's comfortable instead of just staying for a 2 or 3 year deal and then going, moving up the ladder to some bigger market. They just stay because it's home.
That's awesome.
Which is a compliment again to this area.
That's great. That's great. So is there maybe a behind the scenes story that you maybe you're comfortable sharing, something that might just be interesting that our listeners might like hearing about? Something about Fox 8, maybe somebody that you met or something else.
I have countless stories. We can't be here long enough for that because, part of it is just you do get to meet, people love celebrities, and you get to meet a lot of celebrities, a lot of sports stars. In my early sports days at the station, I did all the post-game interviews with the Cavs, Browns, and Indians for years. And working for Fox when we were actually owned by Fox, spent a lot of time in LA with a lot of celebs and behind the scenes at American Idol, and I spent a week at the Jerry Springer show once at its height of its craziness.
Oh,
and
wow.
Just the stories from that could have me put in prison. And, it's just, I actually hired him to come in and host our local Emmys.
Oh, wow.
It was so good it was boycotted by many people beforehand. Let's just say I took the stodgy, upper air out of that award show by having Jerry Springer come in and do that. I have so many. I'll just share one very funny, meaningful one to me on Dick Goddard's last day. And Mr. Goddard was the best of the best and still is, and he just had a birthday recently. He's 89. He's down in Florida, and but it was his last telecast, his last show.
I remember watching that.
And he and I were sitting together off to the side, just hanging out, waiting for his time. And, being there and watching it all my life and being there all the years, I mean, I knew the moment that it was and what it meant, not only to the viewers but to him and certainly myself. And here I was just, the two of us just, chatting. And I just said, I go, Mr. Goddard, this is it. This is your last one. You've been on the air since the 60s and, I don't know how many hundreds that, I go, what are you going to say for, your life? He goes, I don't know. I can't wait to hear myself. It's like, it just shows you he didn't even know. He goes, I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say. But he was great. And I don't know. I should have thought of that before I came because there's a lot of them. Some really, really funny ones, sentimental ones. And
that's great. So looking back at your career, is there maybe anything that you maybe wish you would have known at a certain point in time, or anything that you look back and say, oh, geez, I maybe wish I knew something or would have handled something differently, or anything like that comes to mind that could be of help to maybe other people that, have that type of influence that you do over your teams? You know what?
I pondered that one. And, it should be very easy to list mistakes and all that, but I honestly can't think of anything that I regret or that, boy, I was dead wrong about that. So I'll just continue on the positive and just say, I just think it's about your people and just continuing to foster their goals and their wishes ahead of your own. And in turn, you will be more fulfilled and to be more gratified on that you were able to help them.
Yeah.
And I kind of built a reputation, speaking of hiring, and, I was always pretty proud of my hiring skills, but forget just the on-air people. I took a lot of chances, and a lot of people said, you're hiring somebody without a college degree, you're hiring an art director that's never worked in the business. I loved taking that challenge or pushing that envelope, not haphazardly or because in my mind I wasn't taking a chance at all. I mean, obviously I vetted them and I talked to them and I got to know them.
Sure.
And everybody else is like, man, you're taking a chance here. I didn't feel that way at all. And yet I'm sure somebody said that when somebody decided to make me the youngest department head.
Sure.
What are you doing and all that. But I was really proud of that record because I can't think of any hires where I'm going, swing and a miss and all that. They just...
That's awesome.
And I didn't worry about where they went to school or what their grades were or what they knew. I always said, just give me somebody who gets it and is a nice person, and I'll teach them the rest.
That's awesome.
That was I've actually stated that many times because that really was my philosophy. Just be a good person and just get it in general, and then I'll teach you the ropes.
Yeah. Well,
That served me well.
Yeah, and we've talked. You've mentioned several times just the importance of your people and taking care of them and that family atmosphere that you brought there, and that's still there, no doubt. And it was really interesting. I had just knowing you for the past couple of years, I really got to learn more about you when you actually had me on New Day Cleveland, and I got a chance a couple of times.
And you
that's
were
right.
really good. I'm not just saying that. He was really good.
Well, I'm honored to hear that from you. So, but just meeting people like David Moss and Natalie Herbeck, and just how they talked about you and how special that you
nice.
that you are to them. And just I have to say I really learned a lot about you that day, a whole nother side of you. And so another thing that clicks too is because you gave me a tour of the entire facility.
See?
So now I know why you did such a good job with it. That was your first job there.
I just have to walk you around before you leave. That's just,
yeah,
that's in my DNA
yeah.
as far as the station goes.
So, so I've been the benefactor as well of you just caring about the community, caring about others. So I want to thank you for that personally as well.
Well, back at you, because I note that in you, and I mean, on my show over the years, we've had a lot of financial experts come through and all that, but I love that your passion is teaching and educating people about. I mean, let's face it, none of the rest of us are financial wizards or understand that. But you're not, it's all too easy to have the financial guy that says, hey, just give me your money and now back off and I'll take care of it and don't you worry about it and don't ask any questions and don't. You're the antithesis of that because you want to educate and not only have people comfortable with what you're doing, but have them to understand why you're doing it and what you're doing and all that. And trust me, if you can make me understand it, you're a wizard.
Oh, thanks. So, Kevin, I know how much you look out for your team, love your team, and wanted to instill that family atmosphere and looking out for them. So I have a little bit of a surprise for you.
Wow.
So I have a couple messages that I'm going to play for you. So here we go.
Hey, Tony, just hearing the name Kevin Salyer, it just brings back so many memories and so many different kinds of emotions and feelings. We started a business about the same time. We really didn't know each other then very much, but he came straight out of college to Channel 8. It wasn't Fox 8 in those days, but it was Channel 8. And he started there as an intern and used to guide people around the station. He stayed there for a whole bunch of years, recently retired, as you know, for this conversation. And I tell you what, this guy is missed. He's the guy who used to show people around as an intern. And when he left, he was the guy who showed interns around, turned people's careers from being interns into being anchors and going on to even national jobs. We always use that term, Cleveland Zone, which is a phrase he had a lot to do with when it comes to finding a great phrase. And he truly represents what a Cleveland Zone. And Fox 8, it has all that success for a reason. And I think one of those reasons is Kevin Salyer and one of those guys that just poured his heart into it and really represented what Northeast Ohio and Clevelanders are all about. Today, big corporations take over these broadcasting companies and you lose the personality of the region or of the city. And he refused to let that happen. And he just really poured his heart and soul into every moment and everything that Fox 8 represented as he began to retire. And, it's more than just that, too. He was one of those guys that was a great sounding board there. Since he was there for, 40 years, just think about it, 40 years, he was the guy when people didn't know, which way to look or which way to turn, whether it was a personal problem or maybe a professional problem. For some reason, somehow, people always floated down to Kevin Salyer's office, and and he was the sounding board. He was the heart and soul. He was the guy that really laid it out there to help other people keep their lives in order and progress and succeed. And he's missed. He's going to continue to be missed, and we'll always love him, man. He's a great guy.
I've always called David the pros pro. He is the ultimate Renaissance man. He's the perfect TV personality. He's great with people. He knows everything. I mean, he's a wine connoisseur, a cigar aficionado. He's like a master chef. He's like the guy. And so I could not have picked a better host for the show to do, what he does. And he's Cleveland's own. He's from here, born and raised, and just a great guy. So that was very meaningful and very kind.
That's awesome. Well, I got one more message to share with you.
All righty.
Hi, Tony and Kevin. Tony, congratulations on the podcast. Natalie Hogan here with Fox 8. You have one of the best on the show today. That is Kevin Salyer, for sure. He is the reason that I moved to this wonderful city. He is one of the kindest, most genuine, loyal people that I've ever met. He is the type of person that when you know him, you feel like you've known him your whole life. He was the glue at Fox 8 for so long, the glue that kept our State Cleveland show together, the glue that really kept the fish together. He is such a big proponent of local and Fox 8 zone, Cleveland zone, and to know him is to know a friend that you will have for the rest of your life, and I'm so blessed to have him in my life, and hate knowing that he's not going to be at the station every day anymore and that he is retired, but with his retirement, I know comes great, new, wonderful, and exciting opportunities for him and his help. So I hope you guys have a wonderful show. Chad, you're the best. Love you lots. And have a good day, guys.
I think those are two very special.
Two of my closest friends in the world, professionally, personally. Proud of them. Again, Natalie was doing news in Steubenville, Ohio. She's from Pittsburgh. But
we
she
won't
was
hold
working
that
right. Well, you know what? You talk about somebody who's adopted Cleveland
That's
as her
for
home.
sure. Yes,
she
no
is.
doubt.
She is hook, line, and sinker a Clevelander now.
And you really see that with everyone at the station, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland is home. There's no doubt about it. That authenticity and.
Yeah. So that was very, very thoughtful and kind, and thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
nice. You're a very special person, and you've achieved a ton. And like I mentioned, that success leaves clues, and success sometimes isn't a complicated path, and just some of the clues that you leave behind about how you treat others and using your success to make other people successful, and just truly caring. And like David said, you just having that authentic, pouring your heart in every day. And so those are just, obviously things that we think are wonderful, and I think are going to help our listeners too, because I'm sure there's other people that, have busy careers like you that, kind of sometimes these simple reminders help us stay on the right path.
Tony, it's not hard to be nice.
It isn't.
It's not hard to be nice to people, and just respect them and appreciate what they bring to the table, both professionally and personally, and just utilize their skills and what makes them who they are. I just think that's life 101.
Exactly, right? Well, Kevin, as we wrap up, this podcast is about achieving success where wealth and life intersect. And success means different things to different people, and wealth means different things to different people. But at this stage of your life, you've had obviously a very successful career. But when you think about maybe life moving forward and that intersection of wealth and life, what does success look like for you moving forward?
I just want to be comfortable. I want to be secure. I want to be happy. Again, these are life 101 things. I mean, who doesn't want those things, I kind of feel like I've done what I was, put here to do. I'm certainly not ready to curl up into a ball and, whatever. But
Sure.
At the same token, it's time to let somebody else do their thing. I am. I'm fulfilled. I'm happy. I'm content. I quite frankly don't miss my job as much as I loved it. I miss the people.
Yeah.
And I can't say that enough. I truly miss, everything we've talked about this afternoon. It was about that. And so I just, I see myself carrying over into my retirement, just an appreciation for people, an appreciation for being secure and happy and comfortable. I'm not a money person, and by that I mean I'm not about the car that I drive or the big whatever and yet I want security.
Right.
I want to know that the work that I did do all these years has created that nest egg for me and that ability to just be comfortable and enjoy the rest of my life.
Well, you and Tina did the hard work by raising your family, being diligent, and so I give you that.
Tina gets all the credit for the family and the finances because you could see where I spent all my time. So, she gets all the props to that.
But I think one thing too that I've noticed about you is that, as you kind of head into this next phase of your life, you have these accomplishments at the TV station, but you also have a little bit of a sense of, I guess, purpose and some things too that you are looking forward to. So do you mind sharing what some of those things are?
Well, I have a real passion, if you will, for Christian music. I mean, I am a believer. I come from, that guy that goes to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night since I was a kid. And I love music. I love the entertainment field, but I specifically enjoy that. And so I'm working with some of the groups and to hopefully, get their message out and enhance, their outreach. And that's important to me. And it's, before it was kind of like a hobby because it had to be because I was working, but now to take some of my experience and connections and skills and to funnel that into them, because they're certainly doing wonderful, worthy things. And again, it's like going back to helping local and this and that. In this case, it goes a little further than local, and just get that message out and help them do what they do I would consider that an honor for myself, and again, very fulfilling for me. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, that's the crux of that. That's what I would love to do.
Good. Any other areas that you're?
Well, we've kind of mentioned them. I'm a sports guy. I'm a comedy guy.
Yep.
I love the arts. I love live theater. And like I said, I'm doing a couple things with Playhouse Square. So you could see all my passions being sort of
great.
tapped into there. And I'm also a grandfather now. I have a grandson, and that's certainly a big role and an important role. And so that's a lot of fun too. So
that's great. I think we were talking about success clues, and this is another one of those. Is that you although you're retired, like some people don't even like the word retirement, right? Because and this is a success clue I see from multiple people, is that having that sense of purpose still as you kind of head into this next chapter. So it's been great to listen to you talk about that and see you kind of perk up about some of these things that you're gonna.
It's time to just shift gears and point all those traits and those experiences to help somebody else in a different field. And so that's exciting.
That's awesome. Well, Kevin, I've really enjoyed you being a guest. Again,
it's been fun.
I'm the benefactor here, so thank you so much, and I've enjoyed it.
Do you want even more ideas, tools, and resources on how to achieve the next level of success in your wealth planning? Check out wealthandlife.com, where Tony will cover the latest trends and wealth planning best practices for successful business owners, families approaching retirement, and comprehensive wealth management. And by subscribing to the Wealth and Life podcast, keep up to date with future episodes. Get it all now at wealthandlife.com. Wealth and Life is created and hosted by Tony D'Amico, founder and managing partner of Fidato Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. To determine which strategies may be appropriate for you, please consult a financial planner prior to making any financial decisions. Any case examples discussed are hypothetical, and any resemblance to a particular person or business is purely incidental. Please visit wealthandlife.com for other important disclosures.